Hello and welcome to this week's Digi-Tools in Accrual World episode of our podcast, brought to you by...
Me and you, Indy. And no Ryan. Oh, you meant a sponsor. Oh my god. It's brought to you by the Digital Disruptors, of course. We're here to bring you the latest news, latest updates, all of the exciting things that's happening in the accounting tech world at this moment in time, aren't we?
And if they haven't already subscribed, if they haven't already seen the newsletter, and they haven't already booked to come to our awards, which by this point, you've still got time. So buy your ticket, come along and join us and join in with the community and celebrate some cool people in our industry.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to that, aren't we? And we're building on what we started last year, which is what we think was quite successful, and the feedback was really great. But we want to make it even bigger and better this time around. Yeah, that's what we're focused on doing.
John, tell us more about our series sponsors and sponsors.
Okay, so we have iplicit, probably one of the most well-known ERP solutions, mid-tier ERP solutions in the market. They've been working really hard to build their profile and working on the product in particular. Launched a whole bunch of really exciting things, which we talked about on the pod, but probably one of the key things that really still stands out for me is they've got a really great stock inventory management module in there. And they've also started working on sort of some of the automations to help with year-end processes and month-end processes to make life a little bit easier. And we spoke to some of the team about that fairly recently, which is great. Also got Xero, one of the great project management solutions out in the market. We're really big fans of them here at Beaver and Shutters, which helped implement them with a couple of clients. And great for organizations, whether you're service-based or project-based, that you're trying to deliver stuff where you need to record timesheets and obviously the costs involved with things, and do it in a way that's more granular and more effective than, say, you would get with Xero projects, for example. So it's a real quality bolt-on for that. And then the guys at Tugger, well, again, good friends of ours, and they're local to me, of course, being up in the Northwest. They help to build integrations and connections with third-party systems so that you can pull that data into dashboards, and they'll help you build those dashboards as well. So you can then aggregate data from multiple systems and report on that with greater context.
And Ryan is not with us today because he will be up a mountain very shortly. So raising some money for charity in honor of his son, who was a preemie baby and doing well. And obviously he's going up that mountain with his partner. So let's hope they both come down together in one piece. I once knew a CEO who decided to cycle from John O'Groats to Land's End with his partner, and they were on a tandem, and I think they got past Manchester, and they just called it off, and the relationship pretty much broke after that. I shouldn't laugh because actually it was very serious at the time, and I really was hurt for them. But I did think to myself, it was like a lesson early on. Because I was in my 20s and I thought, I'm never doing that then. That kills your relationship. So hopefully he and his partner are not like that, and they will be coming back down together in one piece.
Indeed. Well, we should make it very clear that they're not riding a tandem up the mountain. Just so
that always helps.
Plus, the mountain that they're climbing, they can't ride a bike up until the 1st of October because it's an embargo anyway. But that's just the way it is.
Geek. You are a geek.
I'm joined by Paul Sparks, who's the Chief Product Officer at iplicit. And we're going to be talking about what they're using AI for and how they're using that to power both the reporting side of the product and also the budgeting side of the product. So Paul, you must have been having a few sleepless nights, keeping on top of AI technology and LLMs. So tell us a little bit about this and where you're trying to take iplicit over the next few months and years.
Yeah, definitely some sleepless nights in there, John. That is very true, but in a good way, actually. I think more about excitement and about how we can, harness and utilize this. So, underpinning the work that we're going to talk about has been a massive investment in our people and the tools that we use to enable us to be more productive. And it's that investment that we're making, with, nearly will be an equivalent of 200 people now focused on this product for this market. Is that we're now starting to see the exciting roadmap and some of the developments we're going to talk about. So yeah, one of the things that iplicit's always done, you all know well, John, is it records lots of data. I mean, that was, you used to distill it down, as many unlimited dimensions of reporting, which is amazing. Yeah, that's that's everything that people want. No, you're not tracking categories, looking at information, but that's just data. And then how do you then harness that and give that information to people in a way? And iplicit's always had fantastic reporting tools that is detailed and allow people to get to it. But I think the minute you go beyond this is what it does, or these are the things I want, how do people want to be more agile now, don't they?
Yeah, of course they do. And you guys added the Excel add-in a while ago, and for us accountants that feels incredibly familiar. We love a bit of Excel wrangling, and it's funny because whenever I use other products, or when I use iplicit as well, is that you quite often take the reports out of the system and put them into Excel to do something else with. Do you think this next generation of AI powered reporting is going to reduce that a little bit, because we're going to be able to interact with the data and ask questions in a more dynamic way, rather than having to kind of take it into something else to do more manipulation, I guess?
I think this will become the new norm. You're absolutely right, John. So I mean, the work that we've been doing at iplicit is which we will be in our product very soon, will enable organizations to interrogate using normal language and ask questions that they've always wanted to ask. Ask our system, what are the outliers? Ask our systems. So all of that will be a normality, and I think that changes the skills and the ability for people to access information like never before. And I think that's what truly excites me, is that taking that brilliant, rich data that's always been at the heart of iplicit and making it accessible to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And how are you guys going to serve this up to people like myself as a customer? What's this going to look and feel like? Are we going to have an assistant? Are we going to have things that just flag up and go red when the whole world's gone crazy? Or what's it going to do?
All of the above, John. So I mean, it comes in a number of factors. So there'll be a new iplicit analytics, which is a whole new system that's be at the heart of iplicit, which enables people to have all new live boards, and this data just comes as part of our new semantic layer within the product, and it allows people to just be able to interrogate and straight from within the software itself and just ask questions, create new live boards or dashboards, whatever you want to call them, using different names, KPI sheets. And they can literally create them. So, that's how I want to look at my data. I want to look at sales by this geography, by this area. Oh, what would happen? Could you show me, anybody who hasn't paid me or is beyond my average debtor days? And then just literally, it will create all straight away those live dashboards, all those views, all those inquiries, just by using that standard interrogation. And somebody can pin it to their live boards, and they can just see exactly what they want to see.
Yeah, and you touched on the fact that you've got an AI assistant coming into the product on the previous recording with Ryan, and I guess one of the challenges that we have seen more generically with AI assistants is either they're a little bit fluffy in terms of they don't do very much tangibly, or they can be a little bit unreliable. So how are you managing that as well? Because obviously for us as a user, we want something that's really going to add some value, not just be a bit of a distraction.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't think we just dwell on this session, but I think we all saw with horror some bad stories of where things haven't gone to plan, and I think that was really timely for us. It was like, hang on a second, we don't have to be first here; we have to be the first to get it right. And I think that, and I think our users, and the feedback we've got is that users are happy about that. So definitely we need to make sure we've got the right model, the right way that gives reliable answers. I mean, look, in the world of finance, we don't want something that's nearly right. So I think that's really good. So the AI assistant will help people do things quicker and explain how to do things quicker and give them guidance on how to do things. But our analytics system at the heart of that new area, that would be where all of the finance modeling, the forecasting, the prediction, that's where all of that will live and reside, and all linked to a very, very strong new data model that's been, at the heart of what we've been investing in developing.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that data model will then be used also for budget management, because this is another thing that you're building into the product. And we talked just before we started recording about the fact that Google are using AI in spades to do all of their budget forecasting and everything else, and they've proven to themselves that it's more accurate than the humans that were doing it before. And there's a whole bunch of benefits and also some slightly scary things as a consequence of that. So I guess I'd be really interested to explore what does this mean for iplicit then? How are you starting to use AI in that budget process, and where will that lead us as well going forward?
Yeah, so I mean, first step in that is that we've got an all new budget system that is released in the autumn. Again, user feedback. The budget management in iplicit is phenomenally powerful, but it's fair to say that not everybody finds it easy to harness because there's so much power in there. So we've done a whole lot of work around our UI UX and about making this easier for people to use this feature and create some new data models off this. And as part two of that, we're then using AI, and our roadmap shows how we will allow people to use AI to automatically create. Look at last year's budget. I want to be able to increase this area by 5% or change my headcount by this scenario. So just as you're describing. And I think the thing in our testing that's really interesting, that you kind of referred to with the Google example, John, is that the challenge with traditional budgeting is that it has emotion in it.
Yeah. Either that or it can be quite static,
Yeah.
can't it? 'Cause it can just be add 5% to everything.
Yes. Whereas actually, if you ask it to dynamically profile based upon seasonal variances, based upon actuals within a particular year. I mean, we all know the scenario we've heard about for years where people go and make sure they spend all of their budget at the end of a budget period because they don't want to be showing their actual as lower. So you could actually, you could say exclude the last 3 periods and take an average over. And there's all sorts of things that you'll be able to do as part of this. But the beauty is, again, using normal language interrogation, and being able to use that model, you can create scenario plannings, what ifs, etc.
Yeah. And excuse me. And what else will you be able to do with this? I mean, I think one of the interesting things about budgeting in particular for organizations is to have the ability to flag where that business is not operating particularly effectively, and sort of say, hold on a minute, look, this doesn't quite look right, or are these guys over here working effectively? What's going on here?
So this is sort of the anomaly / the outlier type scenarios, and actually that goes back to the reporting. The new iplicit analytics has specifically that feature where it will allow you to analyze, show outliers, and show those that fit outside of the norm. And so literally it would just one of the features of the new analytics is, show me the exceptions, show the areas which are different. And I think just thinking of, allowing a product and a piece of software to do that, like I say, removes the emotion, and it's all about, just being able to dig into the data and to better understand it.
Amazing. Well, thank you for that insight, Paul. Is there anything else that we should be looking out for in this space from you guys over the next few months?
I've probably got a top tip for everybody in finance about a tool that I discovered about 12 months ago, and I've now started to use all the time. And so I think, Microsoft Copilot received various different of the thumbs ups, thumbs down. But if you start using the agents, there's a brilliant tool in there called the Analyst. So there's, and you might well have talked about it on previous shows, but it's a brilliant tool for people who've got large sets of data and want to just be able to digest that and turn that into real insights quickly. So if you've not done that already, I'd say definitely go out. That is a great way to dip your toe into the AI world.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Paul. That's a great little tip. And I don't think we've actually covered that. So even better, it's the first time ever on the pod. So excellent. Thank you very, very much for your time.
Big moves in the fintech world. Dutch payments powerhouse Mollie could snap up the UK's GoCardless as soon as next month. If it happens, it's more than just a deal. It's a consolidation of the two fastest growing, or we call them fast growing, highly profitable players in the bank payment space. GoCardless isn't just scraping by, although for those eagle-eyed people who did notice, they did reduce their staff count by 20%. But in the financial year of 2024, they cut their losses by 55% overall and grew the revenue 38% to £127 million and processed a staggering 396 billion in transactions. They've streamlined the operations and done a lot to clear a path to profitability, but all while continuing to expand their payment capabilities. Meanwhile, Mollie is no different, is expanding too, with revenue up 28% to 214 million, thanks to a product-focused international expansion and also stabilizing their costs. So both companies have proven they can grow sustainably, even against a tough macro environment. I think once you combine these two, you've got a powerhouse in recurring payments, cross-border scale and operational efficiency, as well as a good product depth. So customers could see faster, more reliable payments, and investors will probably notice the efficiency and the scale, hopefully, that comes with that. Some competitors, I guess, might feel the heat, but I guess the one thing that we're taking away from this is these two profitable, focused and growing companies joining forces is not just a merger, it's a step towards pan-European payments in general and being a champion of that. So if the deal goes through, Mollie and GoCardless could set a new standard for how recurring payments and bank-to-bank processing evolves all across Europe, which is fantastic news for all of us in the UK.
Roveel have announced a whole bunch of updates to some of the dashboards and some of the functionality that they have. So more features being brought into the integrations that they've got. So in particular, where they focused in this time around is Sage 200. They've improved and updated the dashboards, which allow you to look at the overview of sales from a quantity point of view when you're looking at stock management. They've also broken that down into monthly reports as well, and then you get rolling reports off the top of that, so you can get some more detail about what your trends and your analysis of how product and customer sales are going, which I think is really, really cool. They've also added some additional functionality to their Sage 50 health check. So this is something quite new that they launched into products, and it gives you the ability to kind of drill down into your Sage 50, I guess, in a similar way that we're familiar with what was Xavier, now obviously Dext Precision and other products out in the market. But getting in there to kind of like chew into like, is my chart of accounts accurate? Is our code set up properly? Have we got VAT set up consistently and things like that? So we've got all of those functionality in there. And then the final thing that they rolled out was the ability to do a Sage 200 trial balance report by period. Now, that might sound really boring, but it's something that's like really important when you're trying to do reporting, particularly if it's like monthly reporting. You want to do like comparisons, month by month. And it's not something you can do with the inbuilt reporting with Sage 200. So this is just, like I say, an example of like taking modern technology, because Roveel is all in the cloud and super exciting in that respect, and using it to enhance something that's gone before. So there we go.
Firmcheck just hit a major milestone in helping firms navigate the new Companies House ID verification requirements without adding cost or complexity. Why does it matter? I guess that, we've all seen Companies House has now mandated stricter ID verification for directors and key stakeholders, and firms everywhere are asking, how do we comply without drowning in manual admin? So Firmcheck in their latest update combines cryptographic checks, AI, and OCR document import tools to make client onboarding effortless and scalable. But you can also have bulk import of documents and instantly see which clients are verified, You can scan the NFC chips in the passports and even combine this with existing biometric verification. And that's all included in their compliance plan. So no per director fees, there's just one per company. Why does it matter? I guess it's not just about compliance teams being freed up to focus on different types of work. But also in general, I think the staying audit ready, reducing the risk overall, and handling ID verification at scale is a lot better when you've got all elements of it covered. So great news from them on that. And John, what do you think?
Well, for me, I absolutely love what Firmcheck do, and obviously these changes that are coming in the not too distant future now are going to be quite impactful for accounting practices, particularly those that are doing lots of COSEC work for their clients. And it's going to take a little bit of an education process, I guess, for them to help their company directors and shareholders, etc., kind of manage this change and this transition. But it's all for the good in the broader sense, because obviously it's going to help tidy up the records at Companies House and make those cleaner and more reliable for everyone. So yeah, I mean, Firmcheck have done a great job of building something out, and I know that we've looked at the products in particular specifically for this reason, because our existing AML provider does not do what we require to meet these new compliance requirements.
Ooh. Well, one to watch. John, tell me something interesting. What is interesting?
So Dext released a really cool little update into their product. Something I'm going to take kudos for, because I suggested that they should build this into their product back when they were Receipt Bank, and back when they had like an advisory council, which I was very lucky to be invited upon. Probably, well, I reckon it must be about 10 years ago. And it's something that we've been doing in the practice for about 2 years as well. So well done to Dex for catching up. But we'll get there in the end. But they have released some additional VAT check functionality into the OCR extraction technology that they've got in Dex Prepare. So essentially, when you upload an invoice or a receipt and it's got a VAT number on there, they will check that back to HMRC and validate that, and then flag whether or not the supplier name matches the HMRC record in the background. I've actually seen it in practice. I've used it. I used it the other day when I was doing some stuff for the pod, ironically, when I was processing some invoices there. And it's really cool little function. It does, like I say, just raises a little flag if it doesn't match. And clearly, if it does match, it's all good and it goes through. So this is a cool little way of managing VAT in a slightly more sophisticated way, in terms of, we know that there are issues around fraud in terms of people either ghosting other people's numbers effectively, like using them using another supplier's number and pretending that they're VAT registered and then getting an extra 20% out of you. Or we also know that just sometimes people are not registered and just making up numbers and things like that. So I think anything that can help small business fraud, whether it's from Dext or any of the suppliers in the marketplace, I think those should be things that they should really focus in on. And obviously, we've seen a lot of this in the payment space with like validation checks around payees and things like that. But there's still more that can be done, I think, in this respect, whether it's connecting to Companies House, whether it's doing more connections into HMRC and other things. And obviously, we can do this with European VAT numbers and other things as well. So that this functionality can still be expanded out and become more broad to help manage these things, which is cool. I really like it. Kudos to them for getting in there. Like I say, it was definitely my idea, but I don't need all the plaudits, so it's fine.
I wonder where else it could be used. I think that's something that, if in purchase lending, for instance, and things that you would then want validation for certain types of suppliers, it's quite clever actually. Yeah. Good to see. Here's a surprising twist in AI adoption in accounting. Senior accountants are using AI more than their younger colleagues. That's something that's come out of some research that was done by Silverfin. Partners and seasoned managers are embracing AI for client insights, reporting, and compliance tasks more than the juniors, who you would expect to be the early adopters. The survey by Silverfin found that only 16% of accountants between 18 to 24 use AI for client insights, compared to 50% of those 55 and older. The pattern repeats for compliance work, 39% of younger staff versus 71% for seniors. And while these numbers are from a sample of 350 accountants, they highlight a real trend The AI isn't just about tech savviness, it's about context, trust, and workflow. So you might think, why the reversal? But I think actually for most of us, we'd say it's fairly obvious that the senior accountants who sit at the top of the information pyramid see the full picture of the client's business, and AI helps them to quickly process large volumes of that data and uncover insights and opportunities that junior staff who might be focused on transactional work might not even think about. So in many firms, AI access is also deliberately restricted for different staff levels, and I think that also has an impact. And on the other side, you might be a junior colleague who might be more worried about whether you should be using AI on this particular report, whether it feels like cheating, or whether they haven't even reached that stage in their workflow where AI is able to even add that context or value. So I think the generation gap is less about tech fluency and more about the role level, the expectations versus reality. And also, I think firms need to really think about what responsibility they bear in training the junior colleagues up on that.
I've got an announcement from Clockwork.ai, who have announced a partnership with Thomson Reuters. Clockwork.ai is a financial planning and analysis tool. So I guess this is where the US and UK markets probably differ a little bit, because in the US market, they would call this like their cash practice, which is their client advisory services, and they don't have the same kind of restrictions that we have here in the UK, where financial advisors have to be very distinct from the accountants providing advice around accounting and tax. In the US, they have elements of that, but they're allowed to blend that together. And so what we're starting to see is more and more of these kind of technologies coming together. And so this partnership with Thomson Reuters allows Clockwork.ai to have some of their financial advice solutions sitting within the other tools that Thomson Reuters offer, which is obviously things like tax and accounting. So you're able to get, a better all-in-one view of some of the people that you're going to be advising and providing this advice to. So I find that quite interesting.
How do you think that's going to impact more of like the accounting profession? Is that just going to come down the track so that accountants should then expect at some point that this does land in their lap as a responsibility that perhaps they could leverage? We'll see a different type of role come through the track, like we have seen with fractional CFOs, and the implication of that.
I think there are certainly opportunities for advisors and accountants, working with owner-managed businesses in particular, to have a greater understanding of like what their personal financial situation looks like, because that's going to have an impact on the way that you run a business, or it's going to have an impact on your goals and objectives. And you can still do that, I think, without running the risk of falling foul of the regulatory requirements in terms of not being able to provide advice around, say, pensions and investments. But it at the same time creates an opportunity, hopefully, to then be able to do that referral kind of opportunity where you can sort of say to someone, hey, look, you want to you want to be able to retire at 50, for example, and this is what your pension currently looks like. Even off the basic projections you would get from the insurance company, you'd be able to sort of see what that looks like and predict whether that would be something that they could achieve. And if they can't, then you need to figure out what changes would they need to make. Do they need to make more investments in their pension? Do they need to figure out how they would do that, maybe through their company? And obviously there's tax relief and other things involved in that. So you can kind of see how you could blend these things together to start to do more work. And we haven't really seen that in the UK. And from a technology platform point of view, we've seen one or two players try. They've come and gone, it has to be said. We had an Aussie product that connected into Xero a while ago that allowed you to do this, and then they sort of disappeared, and we haven't really seen anything else come into the market to kind of give you this kind of like wholesale view of, here's my client's business in Xero or Free Agent or whatever it is, here's my client's personal view and an overview of everything else, and then blend that together. I guess the only product on the market that kind of tries to do a little bit of this is RQ Ratings, if you use their Compass functionality. But it doesn't, we don't get the way to kind of like aggregate that into one single place, I guess.
Interesting. And I'm going to stay really on topic with AI. I think this one, though, is very, very compelling, and probably really interested in your view on how our other big players, our other technologies in the UK market should also follow suit. So Oracle NetSuite announced that they have a NetSuite AI connector service and a protocol-driven integration service supporting an MCP, model context protocol. So in case you haven't come to understand what that means, it just means that it's a critical standard for how you communicate or how the information is communicated between large language models and other agents or powered agents and systems, etc. So what does it actually mean? The AI connector service will mean that users can engage with their own NetSuite data via a user interface and use popular AI assistants. So you can then start asking it questions and prompting back then the data that might come back from it. But it will also mean that it sets a bit of an industry standard for AI and ERP integration. So most of the ERP players, and I think even any of the tech players that we've spoken about, are adding AI as some sort of fixed embedded feature. But instead of doing that, you're bringing your own AI and you're able to then gain freedom of allowing it to communicate with the ERP system. So I think it's a big shift in terms of how a big player such as this will operate. And I think there's something very valuable in being able to protect your clients, protect that usage of the data, and having narrow intelligence at firm level using something like this type of NetSuite AI connector. So very interesting to see, and I wonder if that's something that will replicate itself across some of the other tech companies that we have in our space. I would love to see that, because I think it is valuable to build an ecosystem in that way, and it, again, gives us all the control that we hope to have, where you have narrow intelligence in your own data with your customers, but using a big platform's power at the same time. What do you think, John?
For me, what really appeals here is I've got flexibility. I can use whatever chatbot of choice that I want to have with this MCP server to interrogate the data. But that also gives me additional flexibility, because it widens out my ecosystem, because it means I can draw in context from other places. And we were talking about how Tugger do this and how Roveel do this with their dashboards and their data streaming projects and stuff. And that then allows you, number one, to have more granular control over your own data. But it also means that you can ask really precise and specific questions around the data and the information that's in there, and that helps you to figure out, is the campaign, the marketing campaign that I'm having a real tangible impact on my sales, for example, or actually am I not seeing that flow through in the data? So that really appeals to me. I think the other thing from a CFO kind of senior point of view, when you're kind of looking at how an ERP should run and how it should manage your business and stuff, is that we know that we want to spend, we can't have all of the knowledge in the world like a a chatbot does and a large language model does. So what we've really got to go focus in on now is what has a tangible impact on our business, and this narrow lens, this narrow focus on knowledge and utilization of interpretation of that data is where I think a lot of people, particularly at senior level, should be starting to focus. So I picked up something from the Xero blog which came out, I don't know, was it last week? I think it was. And it's really interesting because it's talking about how a few senior people at Xero, and I know it's not just Xero, there are other people involved in this, have been working with government to map out kind of what the digital roadmap should be, and how government can contribute to that policy, and then obviously how technology companies and everyone else in the kind of the advisory, accounting spaces, etc., should be involved. What I really liked about the blog, though, is that this takes up a universal view on what's been going on, and sort of contrast that with how other organizations, how other nation states have been able to make this work for them. So we've got a snapshot of what's been happening in places like Singapore and Malaysia and Australia and UAE and things like that, and talking about the impact that those government-funded projects typically have had. So, for example, in Singapore, they ran this Go Digital program, which offered 50% funding for SMEs to adopt pre-approved IT solutions through a grant process. We also saw something very, very similar in Australia, where the e-invoicing standards that they rolled out had an impact when the government said that they were going to have a mandatory rollout of e-invoicing for government contracts, and then that started to expand more broadly. And that helped to drive adoption, right, because it was government-led rather than being industry-led. But it also meant that the impact that they saw after the fact was that supply chains were more streamlined, and payment times for getting invoices through that process of approvals and payment runs was shortened. So that challenge around small business payments, and we see this on the other side, particularly here in the UK, where they're often slow and there are delays, and that we've got this kind of big issue with literally billions of pounds worth of effectively unfunded debt sitting in the system. That's a challenge for what's going on. And then out of New Zealand, they had a very similar product approach that the guys in Singapore had, which was about digital boost, but it was just focused on skills, not technology. And again, we've seen this here in the UK, but the problem is the UK government's kind of been a bit wishy-washy, and they've either been in or they've been out. No one's been really clear. And I think what I find really fascinating about this blog is that they've had a real direct focus on long-term objectives, not short-term planning where if the funding doesn't get used, it's going to get pulled. It's about how do we go through a transition period over 5, 6, 7 years and have a real impact and have a measurable impact and have some milestones that we want to achieve along the way without pulling back too early. And I guess the most important thing here is that to enable that to happen, you've got to market these things effectively and really, really push hard on that. So I'm going to be really interested to see what comes out the back of this, because we now are in a place where there is going to be expected a sort of a strategic objective and a plan from government to implement what's come out of the SME Digital Adoption Task Force. And the report and their analysis is available online. And I think accountants, bookkeepers, advisors in general should get on board with the opportunities that this presents.
We are back once again, not with the Renegade Master, this time with Craig Morrall from Tugger, and we're diving back into the world of tugging and reporting across multiple platforms. And what I wanted to, focus on this side, Craig, is how you've built the platform to overcome some of the challenges that you can face trying to work in Power BI with your clients. So I know we've discussed the Tugger reporting portal, but explain to anyone that's listening what that is and what that means.
Okay, so typically with Power BI, when you're building Power BI reports and you want to share them with other users of an organization, they typically have to have a Power BI license, and typically a Power BI Pro license. It's very limited what you can do with the free licenses. So the first problem you tend to get there is that there's a cost associated with that. So every Power BI license you're paying on a per user basis effectively. When we were dealing with accountants, when we first started having discussions about, our offering and what we were doing, one of the sort of blockers was the fact that, they didn't want their customers to have those Power BI licenses. So that was an instant blocker. Another problem that came back is the fact that they, these reports, if they built reports for the customer and the customer wasn't necessarily paying for the reports, they didn't want to give them the Power BI files, because that meant that they could take them away and turn to another accounting firm. So that was another problem. And then sort of the final problem is that it becomes quite hard to sort of set up in terms of getting everything involved in the Power BI service, which is where everything works in the cloud. So it was difficult to kind of publish those reports and then share access with the customers. So what we came up with the idea was the concept of the Tugger reporting portal. So that gets rid of all those headaches, essentially. The first of those being the fact that you no longer need to buy Power BI licenses for anybody. The only person that ever needs a license is anyone who would develop a report, and even then you don't really need that, because actually you can use the free desktop version. It's only if you want to do anything in the service or whatever around the edges. And access to those is unlimited, so there's no charge for us on a per user basis, so it can be a lot more cost effective. Secondly, it makes it very, very easy to invite people. All they need is the user's email address, and they can basically say, right, invite them in, and then the user creates themselves a password, and away they go, job done. So they don't need any technical IT departments involved, anything like that. So that solves most of those headaches. And the other thing that actually I didn't mention was around security as well. So the other thing was, security of the data and everything like that. So we're ISO certified, we've got 27001, and we deal with all that data warehousing. And if people even want us to store the data in particular countries, we can even do that as well for people, so wherever they need to be.
Anyone asked to store the data in Iran or Russia so far?
Surprisingly not, no.
Well, look, security has become a much more important topic for most accounting firms. I think when cloud first came out, everyone was like, oh, shiny new toy, we want to play with it. We didn't really think about where the data is and how it's being used. But actually, that's come to the fore. It's become a lot more critical. And, the fact you're ISO 27001 certified is a kind of big box tick, right? If you're there, we don't really need to ask too many more questions. But yeah, as you said, you solve a lot of the challenges I've experienced working in not only Power BI, but some other reporting tools where, I want to bring a user in. I need to create it, but once I've created it, I don't really need to do anything else in it unless I need to, make a support change. I want to tweak something, but I'm now paying for multiple licenses if it's on a user by user access. You're reducing that, empowering the accountants to control their data, but you've still got the flexibility, I guess, that if we want this to be set up for the client side, they could choose to do that. But they've now controlled that. They can create standard reporting packs. They can invite people in, remove people, and I think that does solve a lot of pain points that I assume you kind of also, when you come across this, were in the marketplace as well. It can't just be isolated to a Tugger issue.
No, it's not. It's not purely isolated to that. It wasn't, and it's not isolated to accountants either. I mean, this is something that does exist. And what has sort of happened off the back of it, we thought this is only ever going to work in the accounting space, but actually we're finding that other customers are wanting access to it, and they wanted to use it as well. And some of the way, again, because it saves money within their organisations. If you're a big organisation, you need 100 Power BI licenses. The costs quickly add up. Especially when you're paying per month. So actually for those organisations, it can be a lot more cost effective. But not only that so Power BI is great, but it's always usually great for internal reporting. So typically looking at your own reports. But actually if you've got, you wanted to provide reporting to your customers because you want to give particular customers information regarding, the jobs that you've been doing for them. It could be, call out, support queries, that kind of thing. You want to do reporting in Power BI. It's not easy to do that just purely in the Power BI service. You can use things like row level security to lock things down, but you still need them to be authenticated with a Power BI license for it to work. So our portal actually enables people to then build out customer specific reports, but not only ones that could be, generic on a per, within an organization, but they can also then bespoke them on a per client basis. So if they've got a client that says, right, I want all my SLAs reporting in this particular way, they can build a report for them like that and have it updated automatically and give the client access, so they don't need to send them data report every month or every week or every day or whatever it may be as well.
Yeah, and I had a perfect example of where this need came. It was a client that had referrers, and they wanted to provide real-time updates on where all those jobs were they referred in from a status perspective. And what you're basically saying is that they would be able to create that on an individual referrer by referrer basis, or just a referrer portal that all their referrers would go in, filter by themselves, look at where everything was and how much money they were owed to each other, which creates a little bit of competitiveness as well, actually, which I think is really positive. But none of that was available when I had this as a query. I had to do everything via Zapier and kind of pre-built scripts and data tables, and it was just getting incredibly complex. Where there's actually what you have built now creates so much flexibility, and my mind's already kind of racing on the potential that this could be used for. So yeah, as you kind of build this out, the more platforms you integrate with, the more data that you're able to bring in, the more flexibility this creates for clients. Purely because you've taken what was probably a big weakness realistically of the Power BI platform, and solved it in quite an elegant manner. So is this something that when you're talking to, accountants now, generally they adopt the portal first? They don't kind of go down the bespoke route. They go, I want to start using the portal like from day one?
Yeah, so the portal tends to be what everyone adopts. I don't think we've got any accountants now that probably don't adopt the portal. I think they all want to go down that route. It's very easy for them to understand, particularly if they've never really familiarized themselves with Power BI before as well, because it's just, to them, it's just a web interface that they can play around with. And one of the benefits you've also got in our platform is that we do have some pre-built reports as well. So we have like pre-built Power BI reports that they're very specific to certain platforms. So there's like ones around Xero, ones around QuickBooks. You've got HubSpot and all these other kind of things. But it means that literally they've actually got a solution that literally works out of the box, that if they want, they can literally have their clients on from day one. And if they don't even want to report on it, anything, they can do that. But if they want to just tweak it a little bit, they can tweak it quite easy and make those amends.
And there's a thing that, for ages, people were trying to find these like tools such as Sift, where you could do some simple reports. We roll it out to all our client base, and now they can see little bits of information, just kind of like a KPI report for them. But there was always massive limitations on those systems. And even now, like Sift has been acquired by Xero, you can't engage in the same way you used to. So what I guess we could do here as accountants is we could create a little KPI snapshot that's generic across all our clients, plug them in, and then essentially have that they access and just share with them. That's something that is possible with this, because you're not now paying on a user by user basis. So that's incredibly powerful. Look, we've talked, I guess, over this series about why you're called Tugger, why this was needed in the whole accounting and beyond sector, and some of the technicalities behind how the system works, etc. But if anyone is listening and wants to reach out to find out more about how they could get involved in tugging, what is the best way of doing that, Craig?
Probably the best way you can book demos of us down on the website. There's phone numbers on there. That's probably the best way to get hold of us, guys. But you have to go to tuggerapp.com. You'll find us there. We're also doing a webinar in September as well. So there's a webinar we're going to be doing there with an accountancy firm called Hearst's. So that's something that people can book onto as well. And you can actually see then exactly how an accountant is actually using the reporting portal, what they're doing in Power BI, and how they're effectively helping to sort of grow their digital arm of the business.
Cool. And just just to make certain that people are searching for the right thing, it is www.tuggerapp.com.
That's it. That's the one, yeah.
Brilliant. Make sure you don't mistype this one. You don't know what you're going to find. But thanks again, Craig, for jumping on. It's been very insightful.
Yeah, no problem at all, Ryan. Good to chat.
So I think that's the end of our episode, and thank you for joining us on today's podcast. If you've got any perspectives on some of the news articles that we've spoken about, share them with us. If you haven't already done so, sign up to our newsletter, sign up to our damn awards. You're going to enjoy the awards because at least you get to connect with people in this industry and just a bit casual, keeping it something that, you can dip in and out of. But we would love to see you there, and celebrating some of the lesser spoken about names in our space. Thanks for joining us, and we will catch you on the next one. Right, John?
Absolutely.